Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another week of the Nothing to Prove Only to Share podcast. This week we had Dani Erin on the pod and we had an awesome, emotional, inspiring conversation. We lost audio from our mics for the first few moments of this episode, but our cameras do pick up a little bit of audio. So I decided that for the YouTube video, I'm just going to leave it all in, shitty audio, no cuts. It's just a sweet little intro and I want to share it. Hope you guys like the episode.
You got nothing to prove. Nothing to prove.
All right, we're rolling. All right, so you want me to say the name of the take?
Yeah. No, I think maybe do a finger.
A finger?
Yeah.
A finger, okay.
Make sure you're in both shots.
One. This is the
No,
first.
you're not in that.
How am I not in this one? I'm so most
Really?
definitely in this one. All right, this is number one.
I'm super scared. Okay, welcome to the Nothing to Prove Only to Share podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm
This
so excited
is
to be here.
Dani Erin. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey.
This is totally in my line. So I've been super excited about this episode because we just like kind of accidentally met each other in town, and that's so cool. Like I've been so excited about the pod in that sense, where it's given me an opportunity to just be like, hey, to people that I don't know.
Yeah. It was pretty instant.
Yeah.
First
So
met.
we were at Astor, and Emmy was opening for you.
Yes.
And I think I actually may have had a podcast episode to film the next morning and like something to edit. Like I was probably gonna go home after Emmy's set. But I stayed around and I ate and I talked to her for a little bit and I like stood up to be like, I'm gonna go, and then you started singing and I was like, oh shit, I better stick around. And then I stayed for the whole set.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
That was only our second show as a second live show as a band.
That's
I'm
so
really sorry.
Yeah.
What the hell?
What's up?
I don't know, it overloaded. Does this thing where it overloads? I don't know why it's doing that. Have a conversation quick, because I want to see. I just changed one thing.
Was it recording or no?
It was.
Okay.
And then it stopped because.
Were you recording over it?
Not anymore. That's really
I swear
annoying.
this is our 6th episode.
Yeah, what the fuck? I mean, this hasn't happened yet. This is a new thing. It's like every
That's
time.
good. We can troubleshoot.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm here for it. I told you this was going to be 5 hours.
Yeah, we're really taking
I
our
was
time.
not done.
Huh? We'll just keep an eye on it, I guess.
I guess.
Okay, so you said that that's your second show with that
Yeah.
group. Before we even get into that, do you want to
Yeah.
give us a little background?
Oh,
Although,
hold on, wait. We gotta start this over. Unless you want to pain. Do you want to pain in your ass when you're like editing this?
I want to keep that clip, but we just...
Yeah, but like merging it together is gonna be a trick.
Oh, just clap again then.
Yeah. 1.1.
Okay. Fuck, this is like, is it going to be a smooth transition?
I love this. This is my first podcast, for the record, and
Maybe I'll just keep all of it in.
yeah, just keep it out. We're having fun.
Okay, before we get into
Yeah.
that, give us a little background. I know that you kind of said that your story is kind of long and detailed.
Yes.
So maybe we could start with like early musical experiences, where you're from.
Yeah. So if you're going to learn one thing about me is my life has never taken a straight line. It's kind of zigzagged around 2 different realizations of like songwriting and then vocal stuff. So I'm born and raised in Forest Lake, Minnesota. And I don't want this to sound too cliche, but my parents are still together. They're in the same house that I grew up in. I'm the youngest of 4. And because I was the youngest, I was exposed to the music that was just being brought into the house
Yeah,
from my
totally.
siblings, you know? So my brother had this really interesting, like, hip-hop influence, like Bone Thugs and Harmony. My sister Brittany, back in the day, you had, like, the big CD case. And I have memories of stealing, Nat King Cole and Jack Johnson. Mm-hmm. And then my other sister, Katie, she brought in Aaliyah and TLC and these very strong kind of female vocal women.
Totally.
And then my grandfather was probably the most influential because he played accordion and harmonica. And I never appreciated Johnny Cash growing up, but every time I hear, like, don't you think there's like songs and music that follow you throughout your life?
Absolutely, yeah.
Johnny Cash is one of those for me. He's been deceased for many years now, but anytime I'm like in a coffee shop and it comes on, it's like this very nostalgic thing for me. So just because I'm the youngest, I think just being in a household, it's not like I knew I was going to be doing music or writing. And it's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I always am like, what came first? Was I a songwriter first, or was I singing?
Yeah.
You know? So back in the day, this is going to date me when I say this, but my brother had a waterbed.
Okay, yeah.
And he had a stereo where, like, back in the day, you could plug a microphone in. And when I discovered Whitney Houston for the first time and Mariah Carey, I was like, vocals can do that. And so I would like sit on his waterbed and like, you know, plug the microphone in and try to match. I mean, I didn't even hit puberty yet. And I was like, you know, and I have like these memories of my siblings being like, shut up, or like they hide the microphone from her.
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah, they, you know, would tease me about that. But yeah, so that was pretty early on with that memory.
I love that.
Yeah.
So then from there, like, when did you start really pursuing or really writing?
Yeah, so, I mean, my legal name is Dani Erin Mueller, but my artist name is Dani Erin. So it's not far off from who I am, but she wasn't really developed until my mid-20s.
Okay.
My first group that I started was called Vandalia. So it was Vandalia and Cretan, which is in St. Paul. And it dissolved, and I had like a weird CD of songs that I was like, well, I wrote those, but they're just very green, very unstructured. And then it didn't really come to fruition for me that like I had a vision to have this artist side of myself till I moved to New York. That was probably the most influential time because, you know, I'm born and raised in the Midwest. I never knew that you could go to New York and like be somebody, create your own reality, you know, because like where I'm from, it's like you get a job, you have a family, you get married, you work. That's like what your life is.
I resonate.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So,
Yeah.
but you're only in that environment. It's kind of like the only, and none is better than the other for the record. But I'm just saying, like, if you've only ever known one reality. And then when I went to New York, people are like, oh, I'm a full-time artist. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Or, you know, I'm a musician, I'm a painter, I'm a sculptor. And I was like, you can do that full time? Like that it was, I mean, it gives me chills when I think about it because my brain did not compute that you could do that until I moved to New York. And then Dani Erin was born.
Oh, that's so cool. I have to tell you, like, my experience is so similar.
Yeah.
Grew up in a small town where, it was very like, you know, this is the way.
Yeah.
And when I moved down here, and I mean, I've been here for a while and kind of off and on too, like back and forth a little bit. But Bob DeLage, one of my best friends from high school, he's in, and I bring him up like every episode somehow.
Shout out.
In a band called Woodson. And when they, just like friends of mine who are musicians, who are, you know, just guys I know are like, okay, we're going to do this full time. And I, for real, was like, oh, we can do that. Okay, cool. You know, I think there's something to be said about being in an environment and a community where people are all kind of like pursuing what they are passionate about.
Yeah.
Drives you in your own, for sure.
And like I always had artists kind of around me early on. Like I grew up in a very strict Catholic church environment. So like church hymns and, you know, Sunday singing and like, you know, just being in the acoustics of a church, like I just didn't know that I could like put it into my own persona and develop it. But that was when the vision was born, was when I knew I was going to do at least 3 albums.
Cool.
And I never had that vision before that.
That's awesome.
And I'm on my second one that's about to be released.
Yay. So, okay. So like you have a vision for the 3, or you feel like once you've done 3, like you've done what you were meant to?
So I didn't know that I was, because I'm a 10-track album person. I don't know why. I'm just stuck on that number. The 7th is always acoustic.
Okay.
And I know not a lot of people do the full record thing anymore, but I'm like just kind of old school in that vibe because to me it's like telling a story from start to finish. I named them at a very specific. The first album is called To Be Sown, and it's like dropping the seed in the ground. The second one is called Grow, and the third one is Bloom. So it follows kind of the growth of a plant, if you will. So that's why it kind of just only went to 3. But now when quarantine hit, me and my co-writer, I mean, we wrote like over 45 songs, so I might actually have more than 3.
Yay. Okay.
I just don't know what they're named yet. But yeah, I clearly, it's you're slowly chipping away at, I mean, I don't think people realize what goes into an album. That's 10 tracks. And it's original music. Like from the moment we do our process, which is pretty original to Nathaniel and I, but from that point to the finished results, it's already gone through like so many levels of development, and that's just one song. So it's, yeah, I say 3, but I mean, I just have the vision for 3, but it's probably going to be more.
I also really like the idea of a record, like a full album.
Yeah.
I love listening to artists put out a record that feels cohesive and like it does feel like a story top to bottom. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, my band does try to tell me like, oh, we should just do the 5-track thing or, you know, but in my mind, I'm a storyteller and it's like doesn't feel finished unless it has a certain flow to the album. And so I arrange it with that in mind. So
cool.
Yeah.
When did your first record come out?
Yeah, so my first album, I think we're on 8 years ago. And then a writer's block hit me and I didn't know how to deal with that. That was in my 20s. And there was a moment of, oh my gosh, I only have 10 then. Maybe I just have 10 because I didn't know what a writer's block was at that time. I know how to deal with it now.
Okay. Tell us.
Yeah. Well, so it's kind of like, to me, I describe it as like depression where the wool kind of goes over your eyes, but you're not really aware of it. I didn't know that I needed to turn to other mediums because I was so just absorbed into music that was like all I thought about for, you know, when I was developing that album, that I didn't know I needed to probably step away and go to an art museum or listen to new music, get out of my own music stuff, turn more towards nature, stuff like that. And also continue writing. Like I have journals for every year. And when my writer's block goes in, I just stop writing, which is like, no, you almost have to kind of force yourself, even if it's 5 minutes a day, to like sit outside and just write what your thoughts are. And then turning back into poetry. That was a big thing for me, but it's kind of like the lights went out and I felt like the plug was being pulled or something in a weird way. And I know what that feels like now, but in my 20s and 8 years ago, I was like, I think that was all I had. But I think it's funny when people are like, I gave up on art or I'm not doing art anymore. It's like, it doesn't ever leave you. It just kind of forms into a different direction or maybe a different medium. But once you've been bitten by the bug, you can't shake it, you know, and I know that now. I have a lot more confidence in that now.
I just read something recently, something along the lines of, we aren't trying to be a creative person, we are, you know, like it's just who we are.
Yeah, and that's why I feel bad for some musicians that are signed to labels where it's like, you have to put out an album every year. Go, go, go. That rat race to me is like, because I write the songs, I'm like, maybe some years I feel creative and other years I don't. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and Adele talks about this a lot too, where she's like, it's also such a feeling. I have to love the song and I have to love it time and time again, you know? So.
Totally.
Yeah, 8 years ago.
Wow.
Long answer.
Were you playing with a different band then?
Yeah, I've gone through a lot. So I rely heavily on musicians because I don't play an instrument. I play my voice and I write. So I'm always trying to musically try to see if I speak the same language as somebody. And I have had good success with that, but the current group that I'm in, I mean, Nathaniel Gillen is my co-writer and my guitar player in the band, and I can look at him and say, like, we need to top this with that and move to the, I can just say something just gibberish, and he's like,
gosh, yes.
got you. So like to actually have somebody that you can, because I'm not technical, I don't read music. So I rely on musicians that are extremely technical.
Yeah.
So it was Dani Erin and the Jimmy Valentine Trio in New York, and they were an all Haitian band. So they brought this like really cool jazz island vibe. Every song has a very different vibe to it. And then I turned more to the business side of booking and just kind of put my music off to the side until Nathaniel approached me and was like, hey, somebody told me that you have an album. We should write together. And I think he kept bugging me, and then COVID hit, and I was like, if I'm going to do one thing, I'm going to develop those songs that have just been sitting on my phone. We did.
Did you guys know each other, or he like found you on social media?
Yeah, so he is in a band called Blue Hound, and I had given that band a residency at the Basement Bar, which is the venue that I book at in Minneapolis. And so every night I would just see him play guitar, and I was like, God, he's such a good guitar player. And then him and I, the whole band and I just became friends. And then that's when he approached me and was like, hey,
Cool.
I think you have a secret. Like we should, see if we're compatible with writing. And we knew probably within the first 10 minutes that like we both looked at each other and was like, oh, that there's something here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so magical, like the connections, musical connections. Oh, I kind of want to circle back to, so I also don't really play an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have like imposter syndrome as a musician? Like, did you ever go through a phase of, sometimes I feel kind of uneducated, maybe is the word. And it makes me insecure.
Yeah, I used to feel like that. But I always wanted to surround myself with musicians that were a lot better than me. That was always kind of in the back of my mind, too, that I knew that if I'm going to do this, I want to be and work with people that are just better than me. I have so much to learn from them. They're constant. I mean, even when they're talking about technical music stuff, I'm like, what? And they'll explain certain things to me. But I think you can be a really technically good musician, but you lack feeling to me. When I think of some musicians that like they can get off of their book and not read the music and they feel it, then the music feels different to me. So that's my strength, and it's maybe other musicians' strength that they are always trying to work towards or work at. But I maybe thought that when I was younger, but now I'm just like, the music has to be born. It has to grow. And I can't limit myself because I don't pick up a guitar and play it. My brain just isn't really wired that way. I've tried to do piano, harmonica. I've tried to do all those things. I'm just not wired that way. But I can put a melody together.
Dude, honestly, that makes me feel so good because I am proud of the music that I make for sure. But there's still that little voice in my head that's like, you're not really a musician,
But then think about not everybody can sing either, So, and again, nothing is more better than the next or whatever. But like, there's some people that can't put two notes together and sing it too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think if you're going to contribute to music, do it in a way that just makes sense for you.
Totally. What does the process look like for you? And it's Nathaniel.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you kind of come to him with like a poem or an idea?
Yeah. So there's a few ways of doing it, but I'll share a little secret with you that from a very early age, I get these little clips that just appear in my brain. It's usually around water or when I'm in nature, and it's probably about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And it's just me humming, and it's just humming a melody, okay? So I have hundreds of them in my phone. So that's the first step for me is all of a sudden I get this inspiration and then I go, is this note sound sad to me? Does this note sound happy to me? And then I'll structure my lyrics around that. But what I do is and this is the genius of Nathaniel, is I will share those vocal clips with him and then he'll plug it in to the computer or whatever he plugs it into. If you watch him work, it is magical. His brain works in a very special way. And he will take that and completely structure into and be like, hey, is that the verse? Do you hear that? Is that the bridge? Is that the chorus? Him and I will work together to tailor what the next phase of the song works.
Cool.
I have given him a piece of poetry and been like, this just has a mood to it. And he has picked out notes and has created a song just based on a piece of paper with words on it, which I think is pretty cool. And then him and I will sit like we're sitting now, and I'll just say, "What are you thinking? What's going on with you?" Like, I'm so fortunate that I have people around me that share their life with me, and then I don't want to like say like, "Oh, then I go and write a song about it," but I get to have inspiration to, pull at a few things so that a song can be born, and then I want to sugarcoat it so people know I'm not directly talking about a situation that happened to them. And I won't ever really share the backstory to every song, maybe some, but for people's privacy. But so that's kind of the organic process of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. It's reminding me of, I just started working with this guy named Sam Virgin. And when you were talking about how you can just like speak gibberish to him,
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. Like, what a talented, insanely creative person you have to be to just be like, here's like a vibe, or here's like a very simple, not detailed idea that I have, and for him to just turn it into something feels like magic every time to me.
Yeah. And not every song is a banger or great.
Right.
Or there's plenty of songs that we have only gotten a third of the way through that I know I'll, maybe one day revisit. But it's really important to have those people around you that do speak the same musical language, I think.
So cool.
Yeah.
So you kind of took a break, kind of a big break.
Yeah.
Performance-wise, like, do you feel like you're readjusting to the stage? Are you more comfortable than you were before?
Oh, that's a very interesting question to me, because you're up in front of people, which is not... I would be afraid if I would, or like I would be concerned if I'm like, it's the most natural thing in the world for me. It's weird because my mom's like, this seems like you're like happy. It's weird because I slightly black out, so I don't remember portions of a show. Memorization is the scariest thing to me. It doesn't come very natural to me because my lyrics, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what's the count on this? Then we go to the bridge. I'm trying to balance a lot. I'm not quite there yet. I just got off of my music stand, but I mean, I was only on show 3. That felt very liberating. But I can't say that like my movements feel organic yet. But I do know that like the lead up to a show, I'm a wreck because I want to relive songs and give them as much passion, but that also means that a situation I've probably been over for a while, so now I have to rebury it back up.
Yeah.
That's tricky to me. And then I'm like, oh my God, people paid money to come see me. I want to make sure that I'm giving them the most real and raw side of myself, but that comes at a cost.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, the long and short answer is I don't know if I ever want to get fully comfortable, but that certainly... It only comes and gets easier with time. Yeah. But I do love the stage, and I do love the feelings I get from it. Like at Astor, there was so much love in that room. It like makes me teary-eyed because I'm like, I stood at a distance and I could just feel so much love radiating towards me. And it's like, I should keep going on with it, Yeah. So that was a cool vibe.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I can't say that like I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, I get to be on stage today. I'm just like, what am I going to wear? Am I going to trip? Am I going to say fuck too many times? Sorry, Mom. Sorry. It's complicated. I mean, do you feel totally comfortable on stage?
I also feel like I black out a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird.
And we've been talking about this a lot lately. I feel like I become a different version of myself. Like, I don't know like the way that I act on stage, I do not act like that in my day to day. I have a lot more confidence on a stage than I do in my day to day. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
I think I try my best to let go on stage. I think when I'm really nervous, it's not fun anymore.
Right.
So I either have to like get over it or I know I'm not going to have a good time, you know?
Right.
So I try to just, relax. And I think being on stage alone and being on stage with a band are like completely different things.
Yeah.
When there are other people up there with me, now we're just hanging out, you know? Like we're just having fun. So yeah, I think I feel pretty comfortable. But again, it took time. I was telling you this earlier. I used to be so nervous, but I think I just realized that when I'm nervous, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
And I think just more confidence and understanding my voice better and knowing that I'm putting in time to make sure that I sound the way that I do.
Right.
Like there's something in that too.
Totally.
Like I'm putting in work so I can trust my voice more, you know?
Yeah. I think I always play around with like dissolving the Danielle side of myself and letting Dani come through.
Yeah.
And then when I'm off stage, it's like Danielle comes back through. So it's like this weird balance of a persona that is still me, but I also have to protect, you know, who I am to a certain extent.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about your break. And you kind of went into booking. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. So when I was in New York and we were kind of doing some like jazz clubs, kind of around that circuit, that first album was a lot more jazz heavy for the record. But a huge frustration of mine was just lack of communications from a booker. So it's like, at least just tell me I suck and you're not interested in me, but to completely ignore me, I get it. It's New York. You're, you know, a small fish in a big pond. So like, I'm probably one of hundreds of people that are submitting. It is a male-dominated industry. So when I decided to leave New York after many years, I got a job with the Dakota. They were opening up View Carré, which is where the old artist quarter was in St. Paul here.
Okay.
And I studied alongside that booker because I was like, I wanted to learn what is the language, what is the verbiage to respond back to artists. Because I think it's hard to submit, and then hear nothing.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like, even if you're not a good fit for View Carré at that time, I would still be like, you know, we're going to pass on you right now, but thanks for submitting. Like just to give some amount of acknowledgement, because when you're just constantly trying to put yourself out there and just getting nothing, it's like, just at least respond to me. So I wanted to change the way that landscape looked, especially in the Twin Cities. I'm not 100% perfect at responding to every single thing, but that there is a certain acknowledgement. And I learned that through the Dakota Jazz Club, their booker there. And then that kind of launched me off into like, started booking at the Nomad. Then I opened up the Basement Bar. The Nomad rebranded to Part Wolf, and then I left there. And then I was kind of consulting with bands and trying to get them elevated in their image or something like that. So the 8 years was not completely void of any kind of art. It's just that like I pivoted to a side of the industry that I needed to do on my own.
Sure.
I needed to know the bookers in town. I needed to be professional and know how to like answer and negotiate and stuff like that. So I'm still doing that today alongside. And I think it's important too, when you are in a band, it's like running a business. You should probably do every aspect of it. Yeah. You know, and some people hire out a booker, which I get because it's tedious. Yeah. You know, got to really like the emails. Yeah. But yeah, so I wasn't completely void of, you know, being in the artistic zone. I wanted to have it look a little bit different. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think being in that part of the industry, have you met other booking agents? Like, has it kind of given you, like, can you book wherever you want? Do you know everybody?
I do know a lot of people.
I
do, just from, you know, it's a small community. It's a tight community within the Twin Cities. Partially why I wanted to come back and do the second album too, because it's just like once you kind of get absorbed into it, you learn that everybody's like so interconnected.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, the move. And
yeah, yep. So it's all very interconnected, and it wasn't like I knew I was going to come back. I guess I shouldn't really say I knew like I was going to come back to Minnesota and do the second album. It was mostly like my life just kind of took me back here.
yeah,
But I'm happy it did.
cool.
Yeah.
It is a great scene, and it is very intertwined to everybody.
Yeah. Everybody's playing for everybody else, and
Yeah, right on. The goals that you had for yourself when you were making music 8 years ago, are they the same or different in any way now?
I think the overall goal for me, and is what it's kind of always been, is like I want to create music that I like to listen to. I think I've always kind of had that in mind, because again, I'm the one who has to perform it and like do it all over again, over and over and over again. So I don't know if I'm not like a huge goal person. It probably drives people around me just so crazy too. But I'm always just so grateful anytime anybody's like, hey, can you open for us? Or hey, can you be on this stage? Or let's go here. Like I think I'm so open to the process that it's like anytime I get asked to do anything creatively, I just feel very grateful.
Yeah.
I think that's always been kind of the path that I've taken.
Cool.
Yeah, might be a slower path, but
Okay, will you tell us how you define success?
yeah, I had to think about that one for a while, because money is not a huge motivator for me, and I know that motivates a lot of people. I think if I can continue to be a writer, a songwriter, that to me feels like it's a part of myself that becomes complete. The singer side of myself, I still play around with, and I have so much fun trying to like explore the bounds of my voice. But as long as like I can listen to somebody or have a situation happen to me and I can articulate it and put it into a song, I feel like that to me makes this whole process fulfilling in a way. Like if I, like the writer's block, right? So like I've been through the writer's block thing, and it was terrifying. And then it was like, is this all I have? Is this it? And then it's like, to finally clear it, it like gave me a sense of confidence that like, again, it doesn't really leave me, but it is what I can do with it. Like if it just sits on my phone, then nobody gets to maybe be changed by a song, or nobody. So like at Astor, if I look out in the crowd and there's one person, and there's one person that was crying that night, and I walked away and I go, then that's it. Then I've done it. I have to almost start out micro with when I think of success in a way, because it's just so big. It's such a big concept too, right? Because then failure gets attached to it. And then it's like, if I don't get what I want, and then it's like, you have to go through that whole thing. But for me, it's like, somebody came up to me after one of the songs or one of the shows too, and was like, I'm going through a breakup right now. And that song, that made me feel less alone. And I don't know. I think when I hear that, I'm just like, okay, I am onto something. It makes me a little teary-eyed.
I'm like getting teary-eyed.
I know, sorry. I think that's like everything to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody hears me.
Yeah.
I don't know. You stand up there and it's like, I feel like I'm reading my diary naked. And I'm like, does anybody hear what I'm actually saying? And it's like, when I get those responses, I'm like, okay, that's it. We're good. Like, I feel like I can continue on. Yeah. If everybody got up and threw tomatoes at me and left, that would be devastating. But I get to have these moments with people that music is such a connector. And to have that medium, I just feel incredibly grateful. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I don't want to lose it again.
Right. Yeah. Totally. It is so special to be able to connect with people, and for them to then tell you too that's so special. I love that.
Just one person. And sometimes it's my mom that's just like off to the left side, and I can like see her crying. I'm like, okay, I can't look to the left of me, because then I'm going to start crying. So it's just a highly emotional process, and I'm so glad that I still feel it. Yeah. Because I'd be really scared if I didn't feel it. Yeah. Of
course, yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of moms,
Oh gosh.
I've been thinking lately about, how much harder this would be if I didn't have the support of my family.
Totally.
Has your mom played a big role in?
Yeah, I mean, she's my biggest fan.
We're crying.
Well,
now
they're
it's
crying.
a therapy
See,
session.
have you cried yet on the podcast?
I haven't.
You're welcome. My family, that's like such a it's a chord that just it just hits me. Because I think they were scared for me in that 8 years. Like
Totally.
I think they knew that I was struggling to figure out what a writer's block was. So when like my mom's just so curious about it, and she's like, I don't understand. I try to tell her how a song's written, and she's like, how does that? How did you like? How does it work? And she's just so curious. But she actually sent me a video. Back in the day, we all just had like one video camera in the family, and everybody like walked around thinking that they're like professional or whatever. And she sent me this video of like, I probably was like 9 or 10, and it's just me out in the yard, and I'm just singing a song that's completely made up. And I'm looking at the camera, and I'm super young. And my mom's, I feel like my mom has been like, it's always been in me, but I have to believe it too, like always so supportive, but she believes in me when I believe in me. And then she also knows when I go into lulls with it. And just to have my dad, to see him at a show too is, because they've probably always known this side of me when I was little, but now I'm kind of, redoing it in a different way with this next album, and I'm older now, and, so it's, to have all my family there is only helps me to continue on with this journey for sure. Yeah.
I hope parents and family know, and friends too.
Totally.
Like having support is so huge. I was I called my mom a couple weeks ago to like tell her thank you. I was like, she won't even go pee when I'm singing. Like she's so in the zone, and she's so makes sure that she's supporting all the time.
Yeah.
And it really does change the game,
For sure.
Like if nobody's listening, she is,
For sure.
or if nobody else is, she is.
It takes away the loneliness that comes with, again, thinking outside the box and doing something that not everybody's doing. I always want to make it so relatable, but I know people at the end of the day, when they don't do music, they can only relate to a certain extent, right? So, I'm always trying to kind of sugarcoat it, but there's nothing like the support of people that know you your entire life and know what you've struggled with, and, to see even friends too, that because they're like, they knew that I had released an album, so they're like, oh, now you're like resurfacing again, and then they actually get to see me in that role. Only just gives me more of a push to just continue on with it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about anybody that inspires you?
Yeah, it is such a Pandora's box. I'll tell you a moment that I had with music that when I heard Big Mama Thornton for the first time, so one, I kind of went down into like the rabbit hole of like Motown. I got a Ray Charles. I went to Electric Fetus, right? And I was like, I'm just going to pick all this music up that I have no idea who they are, or, don't know much about their catalog. But I came across Big Mama Thornton, and that album was the album that I sat on my porch and I listened to every single day for like an entire summer. Then it took me down to Billie Holiday. And once I heard Billie Holiday, I was like, I've never heard emotion so front of the voice. And I studied her like crazy.
Yeah.
And then Ella Fitzgerald came into the picture, and I was like, how can you do that with your voice? Insane. And it can go from there to like, I love TLC and Salt and Peppa. And I mean, if you were like in my house and you like followed me for a full month, you'd be like, I mean, it could be classical to hip hop to Outkast to my Pandora radio stations are like hundreds long. But there's those big records for me, and it taught me a little bit about how to use my voice in a super emotional way. to bring this like very airy depth to it. And those, I mean, to me, if I'm on an island and they give me one thing to listen to for the rest of my life, without a doubt, it's Billie Holiday.
Yeah.
Through and through. And she doesn't even have like the most fantastic voice ever, but it's again what she brings to it. And, you know, Amy Winehouse, Duffy. Have you listened to any of Duffy's stuff?
A little. I haven't
Incredible.
gone super deep.
And then she just like dipped. She like did this fantastic album, and then it was like, I can't take the industry, see ya.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn.
Yeah.
It is cool to think about like all the different like all the different music that we listen to
Totally.
and how it becomes what we make.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you had to put yourself into a genre, what would you call it?
That's always a tricky question too, because I feel like the industry is like, we got to put her in the jazz genre.
Right.
Like she's got this kind of style voice or whatever. And with this next band, we're kind of going into the retro pop direction. But to be honest with you, we have so many influences on this album. I mean, it's hard to put it into, I mean, there's funk, there's blues, there's classic rock, there's Amy Winehouse vibes, there's Stevie Nicks vibes, and the players in my band all contribute this like really individualized style. So like, again, when I talked about the vocal clips, having these like really skeletal, you know, drafts of a song from that to like, when we workshop it with the band is like, they all bring this like flavor to it. And I always want to make sure that like we do write other parts. Nathaniel will arrange other things, but we're always like, it's a suggestion. We want you to fall in love with what we just wrote. So you, or all of a sudden we'll stop and be like, solo. We need a solo for this. Like, so they can shine on their own to create their thing. But I mean, it's so hard to say it's just one in one lane, if that makes sense.
No,
and I don't know if I want to be in
absolutely.
one lane either.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, that sounds boring, right?
When I saw your band at Astor, they all seemed like so much fun. And like, I feel like you all have great chemistry with each other, which is so cool to see.
Genuinely, yeah.
How did that group come together?
Yeah, so obviously with Nathaniel, he was in Blue Hound. He approached me, guitar player, co-writer. I wanted to have a female in my group because I think the door needs to be open, like mindfully open to say, because I mean, a lot of bands are male dominated. And I also wanted the best, most qualified player, right? So it shouldn't just be gender specific but I knew that I wanted that door to be open for a woman to come in and add their style to it. And Gabby, our keys player, essentially, I'm Nathaniel, Aaron, Matthew, and Gabby. They've all played together in different groups.
Sure,
they've all known each other in the circle for a while, and so they've all had this kind of comfortability with each other right away. And yeah, so we had auditioned, and obviously after Nathaniel would I meet, be like, "Is this the vibe we're going for?" And that's kind of how we settled on that group.
Cool.
And they shared again in the vision of kind of what we were going for. And they knew that we had developed we were about to develop all these songs, and they were on board with it. And to have a band stay consistent is hard too, right? Everybody has lives. Everybody has family. I always want to be really cognizant and supportive of that, but I also have a mission too with this music. So I just got really lucky. You know, Nathaniel having his connections too was essentially what brought a lot of this together for us. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have some music coming out soon and some shows. Do you want to plug those?
Yeah. So March 3rd, Ice House is the album release. So yeah, I know when I push that distribution button to be like, and you're gone. And you're out into the universe on all social media platforms on March 3rd. That's going to be a big one. We're going to do the entire album.
Cool.
Hopefully it sounds pretty close to the actual album. And maybe some extras because we're in development for the next album right now. So I'm arranging the next album right now. So I think we're going to do some like sneak peek things to because this next album might take a little disco vibe. We're kind of playing around with that a little bit more. So we'll do a little sneak peek with that. After March 3rd, though, we did 7th Street Entry. We did Astor, KJ's Hideaway. I think we need to like regroup. The album is out, get the album pushed where it needs to go, and then some festivals up in the summer, closer to the summer.
Sure.
But we have a bucket list of things that we want to do, and I really want to make sure that I'm doing this circuit, and then I can expand outward. But you know, we are still so new with everything. So
Cool.
yeah, it's
Exciting.
really exciting. I know. Can't believe it. It's a lot of work that goes into that. Let me tell you, we did it all at the Hideaway with Jason McGlone, and he is just an incredible.
Yes, I've been talking about it. Yeah, I want Jason on the podcast.
I mean, it could not have been a more. I mean, when I'm in the studio, like I said, like when I die, if I could like choose where I could go, I'm just going to haunt all the recording studios around the entire world, because that is my church. Like that is that's everything to me. And when we walked into the Hideaway, it was so, we knew, like we had toured a bunch of other studios, and then we met Jason. I was like, it's it.
And he's just so good at what he's doing. Yeah.
He's just, and he's so gentle, and but he can sway you to kind of go in certain directions. He just got our vibe right away too, which
Good.
you know was just, I was like, oh, I mean, I can't work with anybody else now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
You're stuck with me. Like I have, like this is it. You're going to be stuck with our group for a while. So have you been to the Hideaway?
I have not. No.
It's just a beautiful studio. Yeah.
Okay, well, before we go, do you want to plug social medias?
Yes. So Instagram is Dani Erin Music. On Facebook is Dani Erin. And website is DaniErinMusic.com.
Yay. Cool. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, this was so great.
I love this. Thank you. Appreciate it.